What took place with Marshals? This is our recap of Episode 2 of Season 1. How is the Zone of Death known to Kayce? The Zone of Death, which is located just beyond the Wyoming border, is where the 406 Royals and the Aryan Brethren of Idaho struck their agreement. Agent Andrea Santos, Ash Santos, tells the group, "I don't know, apparently it got its name because there are no citizens, no law enforcement, no judges or juries, so there's no way to prosecute crimes." Harry Gifford, Brett Cullen, the leader of the Marshals team, continues, "Local legend, it's been a dumping for the region's most depraved criminals." Yellowstone fans refer to it as the train station, where the Dutton family, including Kayce's brother Jamie Dutton, Wes Bentley, has dumped remains for decades. Kayce denies knowing anything about the no man's land when questioned about it. Marshals is still struggling to get traction, much like the horses who are often bucking, jumping, and neighing around Kayce Dutton's Montana ranch. Thanks to his prior combat experience with Pete, Cal, Calvin, Logan Marshall-Green, Kayce, Luke Grimes, of Yellowstone Ranch fame became an official member of the U.S. Marshals in the debut one episode ago. It's important to note that Marshals is the first series in the Yellowstone-verse, also known as the Sheridan-verse, that wasn't developed by original creator Taylor Sheridan. It airs on traditional CBS and can be streamed on Paramount+. There are advantages and disadvantages to this. Marshals does not yet have the fluid rhythm of a typical Sheridan script, and the author's idiosyncratic and political dialogue oddities are also there. Although being a U.S. Marshal typically does not involve the level of explosions and sniping seen on Marshals, a significant amount of suspension of disbelief is required. Marshals is delivering high-octane action as competently as any network police procedural or neo-western, the latter subgenre being essentially dominated by Sheridan, with emphasis on procedural and military elements. It's no coincidence that Spencer Hudnut, who previously directed the CBS/Paramount Plus Bedfellow series SEAL Team, is the showrunner and creator. New pack, nice compound, lone wolf. With the ominous title, Zone of Death, the second episode's character development shows potential. According to one character, Kayce is being formally accepted into the local Marshals group as a lone wolf joining a new pack. Our main man is given a tour by Belle Skinner, Arielle Kebbel, the unstoppable head lady of this establishment. In the meantime, Belle is doing a commendable job of balancing her family life with depressing surgeries. The Latina Marshal Andrea Cruz, portrayed by Ash Santos, is still primarily a sass machine who frequently uses the word abuela. Perhaps she will soon have a rich inner life of her own. Club is almost exactly what I mean. A foosball table, punching bags, a plush leather couch, required cages for personal belongings, a broad chair that appears to have been bought at Design Within Reach, and French doors, to wear, are all part of the obviously soundstage-designed Marshals compound, which is a labyrinth of man-cave-like chambers. Additionally, there is a cyber area reminiscent of Hackers, the beloved 1995 film starring Angelina Jolie. To locate the criminals, analysts and IT types click and clack on keyboards. However, Kayce is informed that since he is simply here as a gunslinger, he should not worry about this department. Bad stuff. It's still a cool office. Where the bodies are buried is known to Kayce. Kayce is not always welcomed with warmth. In contrast to Kayce's friend and Deputy Marshal Cal, who wears a backward baseball cap, the audacity, Harry Gifford, the head marshal in charge, TV veteran Brett Cullen, you may remember him from the West Wing back in the day, is easily recognized as the white man wearing a cowboy hat. Kayce carries some unwelcome baggage to the Marshal badge, which Harry senses. Cal maintains that Kayce turns us into an elite unit with his expertise. Even more concerning, Cal credits his friend with knowing where the bodies are buried. This argument is, right, refuted by boss Harry. Kayce's involvement seems dubious at first glance, the state's two largest cold cases, the official unsolved disappearance of Kayce's brother Jamie, who Yellowstone fans know is dead after being murdered by Sister Beth and dumped in the so-called Zone of Death by Rip, and the death of Kayce's father, Kevin Costner's beloved patriarch John Dutton III. A shot to the head. History repeats itself in Dutton. Since the DEA and FBI don't seem to want to deal with it, Kayce and his crew are called into a drug raid in the aforementioned zone of death. And Kayce is riding a horse because he is Kayce. In set pieces like these, the expansive, cinematic photography of the landscape and the people and animals that inhabit it is a lovely addition. A fentanyl trade between a skinhead Aryan fraternity and the Latin 406 Royals is broken up by the Marshals. Drug dealers are unlikely, but drugs are drugs. Once more, statements like lack of infrastructure forces us to wear many hats don't exactly explain why Marshals are in charge of this rather than the DEA, FBI, or, I dunno, county or local police. However, the display really needs to showcase guns that are sophisticated enough to appear in Halo, and they do look great. A shooting breaks out when the Marshals are spotted. One of the drug dealers nearly drags Belle out from under a car, but Andrea quickly shoots him down. The Royals and the Aryans are easily defeated by the Marshals. However, one Aryan manages to flee in his SUV, and Kayce follows him, riding a horse, as he usually does. With a keen understanding of the terrain, he outruns the Aryan. Then, the SUV is literally blown up into a flaming heap by his gunfire. The skinhead crawling out of the automobile is informed by Kayce that his demise will be slow and painful. The Aryan begs, please, it doesn't have to be. Kayce takes a bullet to the head to end his suffering. Thus, the number of skeletons in Dutton's closet keeps growing. There's no protocol here. Kayce, our ranchman, is back at home. Tate, his son, claims that he has yet to discover his new beginning. Tate asks Kayce where his mother's necklace is for an upcoming memorial after Kayce assures him, it'll find you. Kayce says she'll search for it tomorrow. He walks out onto the terrace and takes out the simple necklace, which has a bit of shiny metal in its string that he clutches tightly. Kayce still has a hard time letting go. Hopefully, Marshals manages to skillfully incorporate the dramatic generational divisions with the more expansive run-and-gun action that currently characterizes this Sheridan-verse extension. Near the start of the episode, Kayce says that Rip, Cole Hauser, is doing okay. He is even urged to spend time with his father-in-law, who is not on screen, in order to grieve his wife. I didn't anticipate that this work would be that challenging. Even though Marshals may combine its Dutton family history in an odd way, I can see that they're making an effort. The conflict starts in Episode 2, Zone of Death, when team leader Pete Calvin, Logan Marshall-Green, is told by U.S. Marshal boss and returning Yellowstone guest Harry Gifford, Brett Cullen, that it's usually wise not to give a Dutton too much authority around Montana. You don't find it odd that's he jumping back into law enforcement when the two biggest cold cases in the state are his father's death and his brother's disappearance, questions Harry. Pete replies naively, it's a coincidence. He's correct, Pete. Additionally, I had completely forgotten that the Dutton family used to dump dead bodies in a mountain pass in no man's land, Wyoming, until he mentioned it. They referred to it as the train station, which was later changed to the Zone of Death, in 1923. As The Sopranos accomplished with the New Jersey Pine Barrens, it's essentially a strip of territory on the border between Montana and Wyoming where you can just dump your dead foes because there is no law enforcement patrol. Following his murder by Beth in the Yellowstone finale, Kayce's brother Jamie, Wes Bentley, was cast into the Zone of Death. Numerous others exist as well. Kayce is therefore a little nervous that one or two of his family's secrets might come to light when the Marshals are dispatched to put an end to a drug deal gone awry. They don't all. However, the Dutton heir is feeling a little anxious about his new career. I hope Marshals decides to stick with Kayce while he deals with the father plot's transgressions, which are introduced in Episode 2. That, or in order to maintain the Yellowstone franchise, Marshals will need to do a little more than just mention Rip's name. Meet the group. A procedural strength depends on its crew. The Marshals squad didn't leave a positive impression. We didn't know them, so they felt like strangers we wanted to like but couldn't. By the end of this hour, which delves further into their histories and dynamics, we are left with one of the most formidable and intricate teams on television right now. Each individual brings their own techniques and intuitions from a different agency. In contrast to the pilot episode, which may have given the impression that Andrea was making too much effort to avoid looking like everyone else, this episode shows that she is the show's MVP. She observes things that everyone overlooks, such as Pete's significant blind spot with Kayce, who is concealing something regarding his brother's abduction. She is direct and insightful without being disrespectful. TV procedurals enjoy acting as though each unit is a found family. It is a reassuring falsehood. These are, in fact, powerful individuals with firearms. The accountability that ought to accompany that authority is eliminated when you treat them like a group hug. Pete's group presents itself as automated. Although each cog has a unique shape, they work together to accomplish the task. They don't have to contort themselves to look like every other component. Their role is to fight crime, and when white supremacists do business with non-white gangs, it is evident that they are necessary. The fentanyl bomb exchange puts their teamwork to the test, and although they succeed, it highlights some weaknesses that, if left unchecked, might jeopardize the entire system. Kayce is involved in the most of it. The newest marshal comes to this position with the Dutton family's or his SEAL unit's outdated methods. Andrea doesn't miss the fact that he manipulates Pete by using their shared past. I believe Kayce is aware of what he's doing with that Ronin name drop for whatever reason, but to other team members, they resemble supporting characters in Kayce and Pete's show as a result. Andrea observes how quickly Pete responds, and who knows what may have happened if Kayce had pulled it during a gunfight. Kayce is an outsider to this group, which is detrimental to both him and the team, as evidenced by his frequent absences to take care of the ranch, his covert signals with Pete, and his lack of appropriate initiation. Even more worrisome, though, is his persistent, uncontrollable off-script conduct. In this episode, he departs from his crew to pursue the escaped villains, as we witnessed in the season premiere.